Today, we're diving into a popular post from the Reddit titled as "IATA for firing our family therapist after she asked for tips." This post received 6065 upvotes. Posted by Confident Session 7848. The post reads as follows. My ex and I have a 12-year-old boy who's going through some things. We found a therapist and we've been seeing her for a couple of years. It hasn't been life-changing for me in any way. In fact, it became more of a pointless chore like making your bed or folding your underwear. I might have gotten a few things out of it but would not do it again. A few weeks ago, I had told our therapist that it's bizarre to not have to worry about money for the first time in my life. I make good money and don't have many bills. I'm saving like $1,000 a month. Last week the therapist asked me if I could start making a copayment. I don't have a copayment because my insurance covers 100% of therapy sessions. I explained that to her. She said that was true, but maybe I could start paying like $20 cash because she's not making a lot with what my insurance pays her. Like a tip. I was at a loss for words. I said, and I suppose this has no relation to my telling you that I had disposable income from a few weeks ago? She said of course not. It was like she was asking for a raise lol. I said I'd think about it. I found nothing about tipping your therapist. I talked to my ex and said I was firing the therapist. She told me not to throw away 2 years of work and I said this therapist tried taking advantage of me. She offered to pay and I said I'm not stopping you but I'm not doing the sessions anymore and neither is our son. The trust I had in our therapist is forever broken. I left a voicemail and text message explaining we weren't in need of services anymore. I haven't heard back. Guess what? Our lives didn't fall apart and the therapist replied that I totally misunderstood this whole tip thing. A comment from user Fred8975 says, NTA and I'd contact your insurance company. They'll probably want to drop her entirely if they find out about this. This comment received 11,997 upvotes. A comment from user Dead God Jess says, NTA WTF. That is wildly unethical. I absolutely would not trust her with the mental health of my child, much less myself. This comment received 990 upvotes. A comment from user Acid Reflux is great says, NTA, this is a red flag. I have previously been financially exploited by a therapist and a good provider would not do this to you. Deciding to raise their rates are one thing, but trying to trick you into a co-payment you didn't owe and asking for tips is going in the wrong direction. Don't discount your feelings of broken trust. It's kind of important on a foundation level. Yes, it does suck to have to look for a new therapist, but staying with one you don't trust is worse. This comment received 445 upvotes. A comment from user Ravin Red says, wow, how unprofessional. She should renegotiate with the insurance company. NTA. This comment received 634 upvotes. A comment from user Need a Photo from FanX says, NTA that was trashy and she needs to bill the insurance for more if she wants a raise. It's fine to think your time is worth more, but there are channels for this sort of thing. One slight issue might be unilaterally canceling the therapist your family has worked with. Your family not falling apart isn't really an indicator of her usefulness. Sounds like you are projecting how you personally feel about therapy onto your other family members. I certainly understand wanting to pursue a different therapist, but maybe wait until a replacement had been secured. I dunno. This comment received 2616 upvotes. A comment from user 2Sheep Theorist says, NTA. So, your insurance pays 100% of what the therapist charges, and they wanted a co-pay. Money on top of what they would normally charge. For one, tipping of a therapist is not a thing. Secondly, if the therapist wants more money, they need to either raise their rates, or if it's in a group practice, employee situation, ask for a raise or something. The therapist was unethical in this situation, whether you have disposable income or not, and should be reported to their professional board for a breach of ethics in addition to your insurance company for attempting to double dip. This comment received 188 upvotes. A comment from user Urbaniety0 says, NTA. Not only is it absolutely a result of you saying you're finally not having money worries, but she then lied to you about it. This comment received 87 upvotes. A comment from user Low Advisor 9274 says, "Hey, therapist here. As many people have said, very unethical how the therapist approached this. I'm not very familiar with making agreements for a set small amount with insurance companies, but if they agreed to it, changing the payment plan midway through treatment is suspicious. Having said that, I hope you find a therapist for your son, even if it's only for him and not you. If your son had a positive working relationship with this person, it abruptly went away without a transition period for a new clinician. If your son was getting something out of therapy, or can, I would urge you to reach out to more therapists because there was a reason your son was going, and broken trust with one therapist doesn't mean that you and your son are now healed. And as an aside, therapy isn't about holding your lives together. You make it sound like you believe therapy is about keeping you away from the end of the world. Therapy is about challenging thoughts, understanding emotions and changing behavior, which doesn't have to be a life-changing event." NTA. This comment received 180 upvotes. A comment from user Valor 816 says, "Look, definitely not cool of your therapist to ask for a tip. They threw away the therapeutic relationship in a sentence with that line. But you would be if you don't find another therapist. From your language it sounds like you were resistant to therapy, yet you still got a few things out of it. Meanwhile your ex was so desperate to continue with therapy, they offered to pay extra. Therapy isn't like a surgery or an antibiotic. It's more like maintenance for your emotions. There will be times when you have more or less to talk about, but you're never just fixed. We are all far more complex than simple problems and solutions. When you've got less to talk about in therapy, use that as time to reflect on the worst times in a new light. If engaging with therapy helps your co-parenting relationship, then don't you owe it to your child? Try finding a new therapist. Work with them to establish a therapeutic relationship. Then dive into the nitty-gritty of your life once you feel comfortable. They are bound by law and ethics to keep shit to themselves provided it's not harmful to you or others. NTA. But please try a new therapist." This comment received 25 upvotes. A comment from user Setsug0 says, "NTA. This is actually against ethics as well and reportable." This comment received 27 upvotes. A comment from user Shedwin 2019 says, "NTA asking for extra feels unethical caveat. You are finding another therapist for your son and wife? You sound like someone who does not value therapy and your personal feelings should not trump your family's interest in receiving therapy. Also, therapists are not one size fits all. The lack of rapport you had with this person does not mean all therapy is useless. As long as the client is willing and puts in the work, therapy can be life-changing. I am shocked you do not have a co-pay. It has been decades since I have not had a co-pay and back then they limited the number of visits per year." This comment received 18 upvotes. A comment from user Avenging Witch says, "I work in health insurance. Call your insurance company immediately and report her. They can take the complaint over the phone and handle everything for you. Especially if this therapist is accepting any state-based insurance." This comment received 18 upvotes. A comment from user Swillshop says, "NTA. Not every therapist is a good fit. Some aren't good therapists. I imagine you would like to not engage in conversation with this therapist again. But if you did communicate with her, I would put it some written form and simply ask her to convey in writing exactly what she was saying to you, since you misunderstood when she brought up getting a co-pay or tip from you because what she gets from insurance is not a lot and why she suddenly asked for it. If her request is perfectly ethical, then she won't mind putting it in writing." This comment received 12 upvotes. A comment from user educational_word 5775 says, "Many therapists are going to cash only and doing away with insurance, with people willing to pay the out-of-pocket costs as insurance doesn't reimburse much. But this seems like she just wants a tip. NTA. If she needs to change her payment model, then she should just come out and say it. This seems like it's because you told them you make more now. Very cringe. This comment received 17 upvotes. A comment from user Desticon says, so did you not hear back? Or did the therapist say you misunderstood? Quite the contradiction in the last paragraph there. This comment received 16 upvotes. A comment from user Tangerine_bouquet says, so, of course the therapist was unprofessional and this sounds like something to report. However, you say, we've been seeing, implying that this was your son's therapist. You make it all about you, but you're leaving out an important part, your son. Info. How does your son feel about this? Is he seeing another therapist? It sounds like you're probably an to your son for not making reasonable arrangements to find another therapist who takes your insurance and supporting him while he's going through some things. You don't sound like you even care about him. I hope your ex at least takes him to therapy if he needs it. Again, probably not with a therapist who asks for tips. You're probably not an for firing this one. This comment received 78 upvotes. A comment from user KindPhilosopher1 says, firing her was the right thing do. But you are using this as an excuse to take your son out of therapy. Your son, who is going through things, should not lose this support just because you find it a waste of time. You don't see the point of therapy, fine, but don't use our lives didn't fall apart as justification for keeping your son from mental health treatment that he needs. The more I think about it, the more I question if you actually did misunderstand what she was saying and spun it because you find therapy worthless. This comment received 54 upvotes.